Welcome back to the channel. All right, it is now time for take two of covering Captain Nefaria, the newest champion in the game. I'll go ahead and talk about what that whole take two is. Basically, I had the wrong information in my first video. Fortunately, I was able to find that out very quickly. Thank you to you, the viewers. Took that down immediately. There's just no way I can have that. There's just no way. If I know something wrong, we are taking that down immediately. It's allowed me to go back and do a lot more research on him and kind of analyze him again. We're going to go over everything I think you need to know. If you just pulled him or just got him, just bought him from the 7-star event, I know I am considering taking him all the way to rank 3. And I'm going to cover why I think he's incredibly powerful, but why I'm just a little more uncertain about all this. We'll talk about everything, show you a lot of what he can do, and then cover his initial placement in the tier list. It's a pretty darn good tier list, if you ask me.
Yeah, I use the sheet. Your tier list is the one that I use internally, and then I give to other designers when they ask me for a tier list.
All right, let's jump into this now. The first thing I want to talk about is this like whole Ionic Overdrive thing, right? I think it's like 95% of the power that your opponent will be getting and the health they just don't get, right? Look, and that's why you can go up, you can fight Serpent. Is he going to be the fastest Serpent counter? No. That looks like it's going to be like White Tiger, Tigra, maybe American Child, Kushal. But if you're looking to like come out with a good health bar, this is a duel, right? I made some mistakes, so I know that sounded funny when my health bar, something like that. You see, we just were not worried about Serpent's power gain at all. That's what makes Serpent one of many things, so let's put it honestly, that makes Serpent incredibly dangerous, but it's that massive power gain, him going to an SP3. There's a lot of things that make Serpent dangerous, right? But that's the big one. He's definitely handling it for you, and there's a skilled way of playing Nefaria that you just can't use against Serpent, but he is effective there. Now, I said we would talk about all kinds of things, including the signature ability. And the signature ability here, there's 2 bullet points that very much are for like emergency scenarios, champions like just getting huge bursts of power or health. Think of maybe Nick Fury. You might want to go ahead and take a look at that, right? But even just at SIG level 20, which I'm lucky enough to have my 7-star Nefaria at, and I'm showing this to you right now, is we are going to be blocking off the healing of Absorbing Man, but with the signature ability, we're going to be getting a portion of that back. You can see I purposely let Absorbing Man just beat the crap out of me, and I'm intentionally not canceling out Absorbing Man's healing, and you can see my health bar just keeps growing. Now, I'm also throwing my special ones, which is helping out a little bit with that heal. At least I think I was. Maybe I'm not. But that's what the signature ability does. If I take my Nefaria to rank 3, I will consider maxing him out. Do I think it's necessary for playing him? Absolutely not. In a lot of these fights you see, I got phenomenal results with my Captain Nefaria without having him awakened at all. But it's really nice, really helpful. And if it's as effective against Fury as I have a feeling it might be, you know, that's pretty darn cool. Now, how does he actually work? Actually, we'll talk about it a little more in the next fight. For this one, you can see that we are using the evade, right? He's got that evade kind of like Elsa Bloodstone, but then you can also do it off of the specials of the opponent, and it never goes on cooldown for that. You can always utilize it, even though it's on cooldown right now. The other thing that's happening is any matchup with power gain or healing, he just like, it powers him up too. Not only is he going to handle it for you, but it powers him up too, which is part of why I really like him. Of course, we got to show him against this Realm of Legends Wolverine, but we are above 100 of, I think they're called like the Ionic charges on the left-hand side. It's what that maroon thing is. When you get above 100, you go into Ionic Overdrive. That's when you start just turning off the healing and the power gain by 95%. You can see our bars of power are just rising. We've thrown our special 2, which gives us those massive furies. And you can see how quickly we just took out a significant amount of damage. And you can see that because we're constantly powering up due to the healing that Wolverine was trying to do, we could have kept going. Like, that was like Captain America. We could do that all day, right? That's how healing and power gain matchups definitely feel with him. He's great for him. That's why I've got him with a point in long form content. I will not be surprised to see that happening over and over again, any sort of matchup like that. Now, we're going to go into this fight against, on the CCP server, against this Lady Thor, basically, like Jane Foster Thor. And this is where I had my fundamental misunderstanding. When you're playing him, right, based on the power and health gain of the opponent, you're going to get those like buffs and debuffs, basically like they're like his food, basically, okay? When you throw your SB1, you're going to devour them. They're going to give you the Ionic charges. the Ionic charges. When they go above 100, you're going to go into your Ionic Overdrive when all the very good things that we've been talking about happen. All right. And then you're going to throw your special 2. You get the Massive Furies. But there's a trick. If you can do the well-timed block and punish of the opponent's special, you're going to get the energy vulnerabilities. When you go into Ionic Overdrive, all your attacks become energy, and you start doing massive damage. Now, what happened in that fight than my original video that was just very misleading to me is I felt confident I was not parrying the special. I was evading it, much like you just saw. But you just saw I did not get the energy vulnerability. But watch, it's coming up. I'm going to go into my Ionic Overdrive, which I'm at now. And right there, you see how I now have the energy vulnerability up on Thor Jane Foster? To me, I'm just being very honest with you guys. I'm very comfortable saying this. I did not feel like I did a well-timed block. I absolutely did not feel like it. Now, we'll talk about that more when we place them on the tier list. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing or if it's a no thing, but I at least wanted to call that out. If you can parry that you can well-time block the final hit of the special and punish the special, meaning hit the defender, you're going to get the energy vulnerability, and you're going to see the damage stack, especially as I get a second one. Watch, here it comes. Here she's going to throw her special. We've got it. We've got the punish. You can see you get a nice little window, and you can see how much damage is now stacking. And I think this was like a 260,000 or something like that health Jane Foster. We got her down pretty quick, and you can see if I had been able to do that earlier in the fight, our damage and the speed of this fight would have been even faster. The other thing I want to show off here is he does have this great synergy with OG Iron Man, who is obviously a very, very good champion. Can very usable in war, and that is going to help apply these decelerates. And you can see that Juggernaut is just not getting his unstoppable because we have enough of the decelerates. We've turned off the ability accuracy of the unstoppable. Now, these decelerates are only 15%, so you need to get this going pretty darn fast. But in matchups where you're often wanting to take him, where the power gain or the healing gain is strong enough, you're going to be getting those debuffs. I can't think what they're called. It doesn't matter. They look like isotopes or something. I don't know. On the right-hand side, you're going to be charging up. You're going to be getting the decelerate. So I think where you're really wanting it and where you're concerned about your opponent potentially running unfazed, you're going to be getting the decelerates at a high enough speed where you're going to be able to utilize your counter evade and those sorts of things. All right, we've kind of shown what he can do, where he's really powerful, what he looks like in a basic matchup. Let's go ahead and talk about him now in the tier list, and I'll kind of give you my whole thoughts on why I recognize he's incredibly powerful, but I do have very genuine concerns about him. Okay, here's where he ends up on the initial tier list. You can see it has a very strong ranking, and actually this is where I had him in the last video as well. The one change that I did, when I felt strongly on this, was his ease of use. I had him as a relatively easy to use champion, and I definitely have changed that in my analysis. Whether it's going to end up being like Tigra or more like Black Cat, I'm not really sure, but I did move that down, and I think it's going to be only a time will tell. And why is that so important? Well, it's important because if you're unable to well-time block the final hit of a special and also punish it, you're not going to get the energy vulnerabilities, meaning that his damage is going to go down a decent margin. I've talked to a lot of players, people on my Discord server and elsewhere have said, like, even on fights where I'm not getting that, the damage is still respectable. And I definitely felt like it was when I was testing him and I wasn't getting the punish. But it also wouldn't have produced the scores in which I gave him that have given him this ranking. This ranking is also without the insights yet of the Illuminati. This is just my initial testing, my initial thoughts. I've talked with them a little bit now because a little bit of time has gone by and a few of them have gotten their hands on him. But make sure you tune in for the monthly tier list, like every month anyways, but also definitely to follow, like, after they've been able to use him in Battlegrounds, after they've been able to use him in War, how are we feeling about this? At the end of the day, no matter what, you've got a champion who can handle power gain and healing. And then I'm intentionally reading this. His immunity to power steal, which is important, right? Even like New Defender, Enchantress, and things like that are trying to do that to you. And bleed effects. But remember, the bleed effects are really only there. I mean, they're always there, but you lose some of your power, basically some of your food, if a non-Mystic champion bleeds you. So you don't want to use him in a bleed matchup against him that's not against a Mystic champion. But he is completely 90% shock and incinerate resistance. And then remember, as he's getting those Ionic charges, not only do they provide a tremendous amount of attack, which is great, but as they also grant up to 5,950 physical and energy resistance. So that could potentially help you take a lot of like nodes. Also going to help you like stay topped off from different sorts of little damaging sources that are chipping away. But also 90% degen resistance, maxing out at 100 charges, the Ionic charges there. So all of those resistances are going to open up a tremendous amount of fights. He's potentially even healing from them. He's insanely tanky. So many fights in my testing, I was making mistakes. So I was trying to like well-time block this and well-time block that, the specials, and then punish. And I would make mistakes and I would lose health. But then over the hill of the SP1 and through these various resistances, I would end up back at like a relatively high health bar. He's just, I don't know what else to say about him. You know, it feels like everything is on paper very, very strong. And then you think about how he's going to actually work in the game. And there's concern in PvP content like War and Battlegrounds about him running into unfazed. There's also the concern about the ability to well-time block the final hit of a special and punish it. And so much of that's going to have to do with like the fights that you're wanting to take with him and the animations of the defender. And then the defenders that Kabam puts out. If they put out a bunch of tough defenders in the next like 2 years that he can't evade and that he can't punish and that maybe have like high energy resistance, then Count Nefaria's meta score is going to go down. And that's something we reflect every single month in this tier list. And we are watching because the same champion can be very, very strong, but depending on what the game is currently asking us to do via nodes and defenders, can make a tremendous difference in whether we're recommending that you actually rank them up. Because if the nodes and the defenders are canceling out what the champion does, it doesn't matter how strong they are, they're now no longer meta relevant. And that's how we often define the meta. He's going to be a time will tell. I don't see him going to a tier above all. I just am not seeing that. I could see him potentially moving to the top of super hot. And that would only be because we find out and decide that he's a little bit more niche than widely usable. And the only way we're going to find that out is just by playing him a bunch. And of course, our very own experience, which is what we put into this tier list every single month. And we've been doing it for over 4 years. As usual, let me know what you think we got right, what you think we got wrong. Personally, I don't think I'm taking my Count Nefaria to rank 3. But I'm very happy I have him, and I'm definitely taking him to rank 2. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.